Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. This is going to be a great episode with Joe Slaton. And Joe owns Motherlode turkey calls. And I've been on hunts with Joe, and he's a great guy, has an unbelievable amount of knowledge about turkey hunting. And this is a portion of the Facebook Live excerpt that he did on Turkey Callers of America. And I encourage you, if you're a turkey hunter, go on Facebook and type in Turkey Callers of America and join that group. There's a bunch of Grand National champions, a bunch of the up-and-comers, a bunch of the old-timers on that Facebook group. And they were kind enough to let me put the audio of some of the greatest turkey hunters in the country on here on the podcast. So I want to thank them for that. Guys, if you're interested in a Gules turkey hunt in Sonora, Mexico, you can go on our website, Gules, that's Goulds, GulesTurkeyHunt.com, or you can go on Colburn, Colburn, Colburn and ScottOutfitters.com. We have a few spots left for 2017, and we are already booking for 2018. We typically run our hunts down there the last week of April and the first couple of weeks of May. So you can also email me at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com if you have any questions about the podcast, any questions about hunting, or specifically about Gules turkey hunting. I'd be happy to answer that. Guys, thanks for your support. Let's get right to this episode with Joe Slaton. Guys, I wanted to tell you about the Kuyou World Tour, where you can get to see the complete Kuyou product line, and you can try everything on, all sizes and place orders. You can talk with product consultants that can answer any questions that you might have. They're going to be making a big tour across the United States. They're going to be starting May 20th, 2017 in Dixon, California at the Kuyou World Headquarters at their garage sale. They're going to be going through Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho, Colorado, Nebraska, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, back through Nevada, Arizona, and then finishing California, both in San Diego, Los Angeles, and then Reno, Nevada in November. You can go to kuyou.com/world tour and find out where a city is nearby you, and it's going to be an awesome experience. They're going to have special guests, expert clinics, special deals and discounts. The 2017 Kuyou Film Fest winners will be there at some of the different stops, and make sure to use the hashtag Kuyou World Tour for your photos on Instagram.
Any tips on owl hooting from CJ? Tips, owl hooting. This is one of my black limba owl hooters that I'm making right now. Start off nice and slow. Usually, the owls aren't too loud and aggressive when they first start, but so usually the laugh's what gets the gobblers to gobble. So, but I like to start slow. Pinky's in the house. Sean Hunkins, my California buddy. How much do I charge for the owl hooter, Steve Howe? They're $45 to your door. I build them one at a time. How do you chase CJ Cross? How do you make the last call so loud? Just put a little more pressure behind it. Get loud. How you doing, Keith Swope? Another California buddy. Philip Bryant, give me some good tips on gobbling on a mouth call. I'll be in my first Grand Nationals. Don't get nervous, which is not easy. You're going to get nervous when you get up there. The way I gobble with a mouth call is I'm doing ticka ticka ticka, and I'm doing it loud, and I'm blowing air across the reed the whole time. So a lot of guys gobbling now try to go so fast that you don't get the actual roll from gobble to gobble. So ticka ticka ticka. Normally in a hunting situation, if I'm going to gobble, I use this. I have one of these with me in my vest, and it gets louder, and I can make a directional distance with it. So that's when it usually, I get it to work that way because of this. Otherwise, it's not as loud and focused in a certain direction. Then I use this in competition. My buddy Pat Strouser calls us the cone suckers. But so that's a difference. Good luck at the Grand Nationals. I'll see you there. Perry Skiffington, how's the weather? It's pouring down rain, Perry. It's been raining for months. I think we've had 2 dry days, and then it's just started. It's supposed to, the whole week it's supposed to rain again. John Lockwood, does Locator's call work better on one species of turkeys better than others? I have better luck with Locator calls when I'm down south or back east, hunting easterns actually. Our turkeys here in California, we have a lot of Rios and hybrids, and the hybrids and the Rios are gobbling constantly. They like to gobble, they like to hear themselves gobble, and you don't have to entice them to gobble at all. But just because they gobble to you doesn't mean that they're interested in coming to you. Where an eastern, if you get an eastern to gobble to you, a lot of times he's interested. But a few years ago we hunted in Missouri, and I couldn't get a bird to gobble for anything. Crow calls, owl calls, nothing, and I ended up gobbling at him right after dark. Birds should have been in the tree for sure, and couldn't get anything. And finally I gobbled at him. We got one turkey to gobble, and so we had a place to start in the morning. We get there in the next morning, and there were 7 different birds gobbling. So just because we got to get one turkey to gobble at us doesn't mean he was the only one there, because the next morning there were 7. So turn the volume down on your computer. Yeah, I tried to do that, Scott. I heard it echo. So Douglas J., when did you kill your first turkey? I started turkey hunting in 1983 and called our first turkeys in. Very first turkeys we called, very first turkey I called in was in 1984 with a box call, and didn't know anything, had no idea how to hunt or turkeys or what to do, and I got in some brush so thick I couldn't have moved, because I actually did call a turkey in, and my cousin was telling me to shoot, and I couldn't even see it because I was in such thick cover. But in 1984, I figured out how to use a mouth call. I've been trying to use a mouth call for about 3 or 4 months. I couldn't make any sound out of it, and the reason is because I didn't have anybody around where I lived that turkey hunted. Nobody turkey. There was one guy that in the area where I lived that turkey hunted, and he fall turkey hunted. He didn't even spring turkey hunt. So everything I did was pretty much learn on my own, and I had nobody teach me how to do anything. And so I bought a mouth call and tried to get it to work. I could not get it to work. And the reason I couldn't get it to work is because you can't make any noise when the call's this way. And I tried for months to get the call to work. And in 1984, we were hunting. I had a box call. I was using a box call because I couldn't make any sounds out of the mouth call. And I saw another hunter out in the woods, so I went right up to him and started talking to him. Well, while we were talking, he goes to pull his mouth call out of his mouth, and it was out this way, the proper way. And I didn't even hear anything the rest of the conversation. I wanted to just go back to my truck because that's where my mouth call was, because I couldn't make any sound out of it. As soon as I got back to my truck, I put the mouth call in and instantly started making sound and started yelping on it and everything. And the rest, I practiced the rest of the year. The 1985, I actually called the first turkeys in. We killed it, and from then on, I've been killing turkeys ever since. Do you hunt public land? Jason Walker, do you hunt public land much? And if so, how do you approach calling? Usually I do hunt public land. There's a few places in California that's public, and I've been hunting a couple of places. One of the places is called Spencerville Wildlife Area in California, and I've been hunting it for 20 plus years, 25 years, and usually, a turkey's going to be a turkey whether he doesn't know he's on public land and he doesn't know he's on private land. If he's pressured, he's just going to be leery. And so you just got to start off knowing that and understanding the turkey and, the biology and what's going on during the spring and what's happening. And so once you can start figuring out what the turkey's doing during that type of breeding season or whatever, start off slow. And you can always get louder, and that's the way I usually approach public land hunting. And I've also hunted public land in Alabama and Mississippi and some other states that I've hunted too. So, when should you be quiet, Scott Sarkan? Normally, if I get a bird answering me, I'm going to keep him gobbling usually. But once he starts moving and he's coming towards me, I'm done. I say that, but usually it don't happen that way all the time. But if he's coming, I don't want to mess up anything if he's on his way. So when he's on his way, and especially if he gets in within seeing distance of you or close enough to where you could be able to see him at any point in time, I usually shut up and let him come in the rest of the way. When did I start call building? Chris Walls. How you doing, Chris? What was the first call you built? I started building my own mouth calls in, I think, 2004, 2005. I bought a jig from Arnie Jonathan in New York and started making my own mouth calls in. And from then, my calling started progressing and started getting a lot better. When you can make your own mouth calls, stretch them the way you want them, cut them the way you want, your calling will get better. Absolutely get better. Mickey Gray, what's my favorite cut on a mouth call? Right now it's a combo cut. The first call that I actually designed for my business, that what I started making mouth calls, was kind of a modified V cut. And it's a 2-reed call. It's a real soft call, yelping, clucking, purring type call. But now I'm using mostly a combo cut, reverse combo. My airflow is mostly out the left side, so I cut that left side wing out, and so that's what I use now. Scott Hager, do you still have amazing numbers of Rios? Yes, we do. I just heard the other day, some of you might have seen some of my videos I posted in the past, and when I first started videoing this one group of turkeys, the tree has 2 bases that come out, but it's so huge. There was anywhere between 200 and 300 turkeys roosting in this tree that has 2 bases. And at daylight, you couldn't see a turkey. I mean, you couldn't even tell there was turkeys in it. That's how big this tree was. The turkey crap underneath that tree was about 10 inches to a foot deep. And they roosted there every day. And I've slowly been watching this flock, and I videoed from years. The old guy that used to live there eventually passed away. He was letting me have access to it and video and everything. And the people that bought it, somebody told me the other day that they had actually killed off the turkeys, that poisoned them or something. I don't know if that was true or not, but I don't see many turkeys there anymore. So, Kevin Kirkpatrick, does Jimmy like hunting public land or posted land the best? Oh, Jimmy Salton, my buddy Jimmy. Oh, Scott Ellis, where is Jimmy Salton? Jimmy's in the back room right now. He's practicing his mouth calling. He's been working on that. He's already perfected the pot call and the box call and the owl hooting, but he's practicing on his mouth calling. Steve Bryan, is Jimmy still going to make some instructional DVDs? He might. He might just do that. Mickey Gray, let's hear some yelping. What do you want to hear yelping on, Mickey? This is, I'll use mouth call first. This is my 3-reed reverse combo cut. There you go, Mickey. Kevin Kirkpatrick, Joe, play on your trumpets. I want to hear key on a trumpet. Okay. This is one of my trumpets that I build. Cut on a box call. Chase Crow. Here's a box call. This is a friend of mine, Mr. Scott Witter, made this for me. Cut on a box call. Dylan Beard, and I like trophies in the background. Thanks, Dylan. Corey Welch, are you coming to Nashville? So, want to shake your hand. Yes, Corey, I will be in Nashville. This is going to be my last year calling at Nashville. I'm going to give it up. I'm getting too old. Bruce Sale, do some Jake Yelps on a friction. Man, I wasn't prepared to do Jake Yelps on a friction. Let's see what we can come across here. There you go. Hope that was what you wanted to hear. Matt McLean, I will see you, Matt. Sean Hunkins, I've known you a while and seen your calling evolve. What do you think was the biggest impact of that? The biggest impact of my calling is Sean Hunkins. Because back California pretty much didn't have any turkey calling contests from 1995 to about 2004. There might have been one in there somewhere, but 2005 I actually started competing again, and Sean Hunkins was competing, and we were pretty close at that time. I beat him once, he'd beat me once, and then about probably 2006 or 7, Sean Hunkins' sound went from good to awesome. And I had to keep up, and so I've had to learn different styles. I probably changed my Yelp in the last 2 days 57 times or something like that. I don't know. I can't keep track anymore. But it's always just trying to get better. That's all I always want to do is try to get better and sound like a turkey. Darren Dye, Joe, you've hunted a bunch of states. What do you feel impacts the difficulty of a hunt more, the terrain or the birds themselves? Darren, good question. I would say the terrain. Like I said earlier, a turkey is going to be a turkey no matter where he lives. He doesn't know he lives in Florida swamps. He doesn't know he lives in the mountains in Montana. He's just being a turkey, and he's just trying to survive. And the terrain is what makes the difference, and what's hard for us to hunt the turkeys. Whether you're in South Carolina in a swamp, or Mississippi or Florida or wherever, or if you're hunting a Colorado mountaintop at 9,000 feet, So I think the terrain is the biggest difference there. Thanks, Mike Breslin. Jared Adams, when owl hooting in the morning, if you do not get a response on the first few tries, how long do you wait in between before hooting again? I like to get the other owls going as much as I can. If they can start going, then I would join in a little bit. I've actually called some owls in to me before. If you hoot very much, that's going to happen. But just try to be as normal as possible. If I can get a turkey to gobble without doing anything, without, if the normal surrounding, the owls are hooting and their turkeys are gobbling, or during the day if a crow's crowing and that's getting a turkey to gobble, I won't do anything unless I want to move, and then I want to get the turkey to gobble. A tip, if you're actually set up and you're calling a turkey and the turkey's hung up out there for a while and you decide it's time to move, I want to move, one of the things you want to do is get the turkey to gobble to know where he's at, because it's happened to me before. I'm sure it's happened to many of the other guys out there. After you've called and he hasn't gobbled for 15 or 20 minutes and you decide you want to get up and go and you pick everything up or whatever, you get up to move and there he is 50 yards away coming at you and just coming in silent, and you spook him and he runs off. So what I try to do before I move, I want to make that turkey gobble. Whatever I can make him gobble with, I want to make him gobble so I know where he's at, and then I want to get up and move on him. Sometimes you might spook other turkeys that are coming in, but the turkey that you're calling to, if you get him to gobble before you move, a lot of times you're going to be safer when you get up to move. So, yes, Sean Hunkins, listening to real turkeys. For those of you who don't know, I've been raising turkeys since the first turkeys I ever raised was in 1993. So other than about 2 or 3 years, I've been raising turkeys for 20 plus years. And so there's nothing like listening to live birds. When you're out, a lot of times guys that are hunting from one year to the next, or maybe don't even fall hunt, they won't even hear a turkey after the end of the turkey season to the beginning of the next season when you go to scout and all that kind of stuff. And I think being able to hear and listen to turkeys continuously as much as you can, because you lose the sound, you lose the different tones that you can hear. And YouTube is great, and there's a lot of YouTube videos on there, but you can ask any of these guys that video, there's some sounds that the video just can't, and the audio just can't capture. It's just not. I mean, I've had my gobbler within inches of my face with him spitting and drumming, and there's some sounds there that I've never heard before in a video. Same thing with yelping. I had a hen. She just passed away. She got killed by a raccoon. That's why I'm deathly killing raccoons as much as I can. But anyway, she perfect yelp. I mean, she had the high rasp. She was just great. And I posted a lot of different sound files of her yelping. And I've had her within inches of my face in my pen and just listen to her sound and what she does. And you can't get that anywhere else. And a lot of times there's people out there, if you raise turkeys, people like Jamie Linder and Joe and Susie Conyers and several other people that actually have wild birds, and they hear them every day. There's sounds that you just can't pick up unless you're hearing actual birds and you're close. So, Scott Sarkan, to be a good turkey caller, does it mean you must live alone? Almost, Scott. My wife isn't here right now because she knows I'm going to be calling, and it drives her crazy. So she went to her mom's and spending some time with her tonight. So, Anthony Verga, you're the man, Joe. Thank you, Anthony. I will see you. Jim Pollard, how you doing, Jim? Jim was the man. I actually, when I called in the Grand Nationals in like 92, 93, 94, and Jim was the man. He was winning everything. I think the Nationals at that time were in like Louisville, Kentucky, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Memphis, Tennessee. Shoot, I was a guy from California. We didn't compete. Even back then, though, we'd have 3 or 4 turkey calling contests back then, but we didn't have competition like those guys. We can never compete against the Walter Parrots and Jim Pollards and Paul Butskys and Chris Kirby and all those guys. They're just awesome. Any other questions? Did I miss any questions? If I missed a question, somebody repost it, because I can't see it. In Morgan Gavea, in your best description, what's the strangest sound you've heard from a wild turkey make while hunting? Some of the whines and some of the alert calls overhead, like owls, hawks, eagles, those overhead predators like that. Turkeys can make some weird sounds. You'll watch them, they'll turn their head sideways and they'll look up in the sky. They do it a lot of times, the planes flying over and that kind of stuff too, but they can make some weird sounds when that's happening. Kevin Curran, you going to win the Gobbling this year? I don't know, Kevin. I'll be trying. There's a lot of good gobblers out there right now, though. Edward McKellar, how do you condition your strikers? My strikers, I usually just use a Scotch-Brite, and I just twist the end of it to clean it off. I just want it clean, that's all. Jim Martin, hey Joe, it was good meeting you last year. Grand National, how you doing, Jim? I won't be able to compete against you in the gobbling competition because of my sickness, so I hope you go out with gold. By the way, I've always loved your purse. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Ronnie Groh, in your opinion, what's the hardest species you've ever hunted? I get asked this question a lot, just like everybody asks this question, what's the hardest turkey to hunt? And my response to that is, the hardest turkey to hunt is the turkey that's hunted the hardest. Birds that are pressured hard are going to be the hardest turkeys to hunt. And most of the time that's going to be down south because there's more turkey hunters down south. Alabama, Mississippi, all of South Carolina, all those places usually are going to have the hardest turkeys to hunt because they're hunted the hardest. But I'll guarantee you I've been into some places, even in California, that we don't have the hunters as far as good turkey hunters that some of the other states do, but we have a lot of people that are going out there and spooking turkeys and when turkeys get spooked and they get leery, they're going to be hard to hunt. And I will put some of these turkeys anywhere that are hunted hard up against some of those places that think they have the hardest turkeys to hunt. So, Bobby Woods, are you going to have some of your owl hooters with you in Nashville? Yes, I will, Bobby. I'll have a few hanging around me somewhere. I'll have them probably inside my bag. Todd Perkins, looking forward to meeting you, to finally getting to meet you. Good. I hope to meet you too, Todd. Joe Drake, how you doing, Joe? Good job the other day. Mark Webb, is it possible to be able to gobble using a mouth call? That's actually what I gobble on. I mean, I can gobble without a mouth call. Actually, when I first started to gobble, I started to teach myself how to gobble. I did it natural voice. And I did it just doing what I do is say to gobble. There's some guys that can gobble sucking in, and I can't do that. I've tried, and it makes me choke. But I do it by saying to gobble, and I just say it really fast, and I go to gobble, 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 to gobble. And as I get faster, I get my voice, I get a little bit higher pitch with my voice. So I'll go, let me do this first. I'll go to gobble, 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 to gobble. So I can do it natural voice, and that's how I learn. And then when I started going back to Nashville, like 2010 or something like that, a guy by the name of Stephen Richardson was the best gobbler out there. I mean, he was phenomenal, and he was gobbling on a mouth call. But he wasn't the first guy I've ever seen gobble on a mouth call. In 92, I think it was, in 92 to 93, I was in the gobbling contest, and a fellow by the name of Tucker Crisp won, and he was gobbling on a mouth call. And I had no idea how he was doing it, but he was gobbling on a mouth call. And then Preston Pittman took second, and I was third. But anyway, to gobble on a mouth call, you just say ticka, ticka, ticka real fast. That's how you gobble on a mouth call. I can gobble on my other mouth calls, like when I'm yelping and that kind of stuff, but it doesn't have the volume and the rasp and stuff that you can get on one of my gobble calls that I make. Chase Crow, what do you do on a hung-up gobbler? Well, depends on why I think he's hung up, Chase. A lot of times what I'll do, I try to figure out what's going on. To me, when I'm hunting, especially if I'm hunting new land, I've killed turkeys in 24 different states, and a lot of those states, I show up, and I've never been there before and don't know what's going on. So I try to figure out what's going on with the flock, what's going on around with the turkeys, boss gobblers, jakes, whatever I have available, and I try to figure out what's going on. Try to see the lay of the land. You want to get that bird the easiest possibility for them to get to you. You don't want to put creeks across in front of you or fences between you and them, brush piles, thick cover. I say that, and me and Shane Simpson called the turkey across a river over 100 yards to us last year. So they want to come, they'll come. But you try to make it as easy as possible for them to get to you. So on a hung up gobbler, I want to figure out what's going on. Why is he hung up? Does he have hens? Has he been boogered? Is he, call shy, what people call call shy? Hey, turkeys are going to be a turkey no matter what throughout the season. They only have, 60 to 90 days to breed, and so they're going to do that the most. They're going to try to do that in those 90-day period. If you only had 90 days to do that, then that'd be the only thing on your mind. So I want to figure out what's going on. If I think he's hung up or is gobbling in a certain area and he's not leaving, and I can hear a hen every once in a while, then he's probably got hens with him, and I want to figure out what I want to do as far as that goes. You say you want to call to the hen. What that means to me is, when I say that, is I want to listen to the hen. I want to hear the gobble. I want to hear the gobble, but I don't want to focus on the gobble. I want to hear the hen. And whenever she says something, I'm going to say it right back. And I'm going to be a little more aggressive, and I'm going to be a little bit louder than her, and I want to get her fired up and get her going. And hopefully if we get in a conversation, then a lot of times that'll bring her in, and when she comes in, her boyfriends come with her. So, Lee Ambrose, give a shout out to my daughter, Gracie Lee. I think that's how you say it. Hi, Gracie Lee. Mark Webbs, thanks so much. Also, where should I get a gobble funnel? To be honest with you, this right here was actually a part of my elk bugle. And what it is it's a wiffle ball bat. I cut the end off here and the big part of the bat this way, and I just cut it off there. And it's just a little cone type thing. But it's big enough, the reason I did that is this is big enough to put this in so I can use them both. And this just makes a little more volume. But find an old wiffle ball bat and cut it off. That'll work. Kendall Keaton, in your opinion, what do you think the reason contest numbers are lower? I don't know, Kendall. We've been fighting it forever here in California. Like I said, we went from like 95 to 2004 and didn't have a contest. And then from 2004 to now, we're lucky if we get one a year. Me and Sean Hunkins have been pushing it as much as we can between both of us, just so one of us could get qualified. He could get qualified to call back in nationals, and he's going to have a hard time qualifying just because the contests just aren't as popular anymore. I think a lot of it has to do with our turkey numbers. You don't have to really call very good or call a lot in California to kill a turkey. From my house, I can drive 15 minutes to a half an hour, and I can see 200 turkeys from the road. In California, our turkey numbers is just absolutely skyrocketed. And we have a lot of open country. I know down south, and that where I've hunted before, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Alabama, and Florida, and all that, the terrain is different, so there's a lot of cover for the turkey. It's hard to see a turkey from the road there. From here in California, our country is open. I mean, it's not as bad as Nebraska open, but it's open country. You can see turkeys, and you don't drive very far. If you've got a good place that has turkeys, you can, a lot of the guys they'll just drive the roads and shoot them, So I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of the guys in California don't call a lot or practice their calling, and that's kind of hurt the contest numbers of people that call in contests. So Dylan Gunter, how do I make my cutting sharper on a mouth call? It'd be hard. It's hard. I'd like to hear you. It'd be a whole lot easier to answer that question if I could hear you. But cutting, just like anything on a mouth call, you're going to push sharp air across the latex. Pop, 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 pop. And it's not a drag. It's more of a cack, 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 cack. So you want to force that air, kick, kick, kick. It's all air pressure. It's all stop and start the air with your throat across the latex. What cut and how many reeds do you like to use to purr? I usually can purr on any of the calls that I make. What sounds the best to me is usually a 2-reed call, although I can purr on a 3-reed call. Just depends on the cut, where you can just get that purr going across the latex. Depends on how you purr too. There's 3 different ways you can actually purr. Purring on a mouth call, and I put a video up years ago on on YouTube, about purring. 3 different ways. You purr with your lips, you purr with your tongue, you purr with your throat. Purring with your lips, and then you can purr with your tongue. And you purr with your throat. So I think the throat is a more realistic one, but there's 3 different ways. A lot of people can't get the throat thing, and they can't make their tongue flutter, and so they have to use their lips. It's usually louder. The lips purr is usually louder. You can get a pretty good fight purr with the lips, but for the most part, the actual throat one to me sounds the best. Ricky Burks, my buddy Ricky. Good luck at Nationals. Thanks, Ricky. Any other questions out there? Todd Perkins, what's your go-to cuts for certain calls? Well, to me, my combo cut is what I can use. I can pretty much do everything I want with it, but it's more of a yelping and cutting call. It's 3 reeds. But if I'm going to strictly do maybe a key or something, I'll go to a ghost cut. And then if I want to do just soft calls, a lot of times you're just going to set up and call soft in a certain spot or whatever, and you want to just do some soft calling, a little 2-reed, usually V-cut, so I can just call soft yelps, clucking and purr, and that kind of stuff. So it just depends on what calls you want to make. That's what I use. Brandon Tater. Hey, Joe, hope you've been well. Thank you, Tater. Hope to see you in Nashville. Man, I wish somebody would have videoed Tater. I don't know if they did or not. Using his in the, what was it called? The Locator contest we had. He had this big old thing he blew in, and it was just like a train horn. Oh my God, it was the funniest thing I've ever heard. It was awesome. Lee Ambrose. When is the best time to use a fly down cackle? First time fooling with the bird or after a few days of working him? A lot of time, it just depends on if it's the first time I've ever hunted this turkey, and he's got hens, a lot of times I'll fly down when the hens fly down. I'll use a wing. I usually carry a wing with me. I scratch in the leaves with it, but I'll hit it against my leg or the tree. I usually scratch against the tree. I've actually called in turkeys, killed turkeys, without doing a fly down cackle, just using a wing. A friend of mine was hunting one year. We went and roosted turkeys the night before our hunt we were going to go, and we heard these turkeys fly out, and they were only about 80 to 100 yards, but we figured, I think we counted 15 different birds that flew up, but we didn't know if they were gobblers or hen or whatever. Excuse me. So the next morning, we get in set up, and I set a couple decoys out from where the tree was, where they roosted. He could see them at daylight, and we sat there, and a bird started gobbling about 400 or 500 yards away, and two of them started going at each other. Man, I was just almost getting ready to actually move and go over there, thinking maybe there wasn't any gobblers with this one. Then I heard, so I knew there was a gobbler in that tree. And just about daylight, when I figured things were, birds were getting ready to start to fly down, I took my wing and I just didn't make a sound with my call, and I beat it against a tree and I hit the ground with it. And before I could pick my head up and look at the decoy, the bird had flew out into the decoy and lit in the decoy. And I told my buddy to shoot him. That bird, he never gobbled one time in the tree, but I heard him spitting a drum. And he had 14 hens with him. He was the only gobbler. It was because there was 15 birds that flew up. And he had almost inch and a half spurs, inch and 7/16, I think. He was a monster bird, and he never gobbled one time. Brandon Tater Rich, how do you do your rolls when owling? I do it the same way as I purr. You do the, it's like a gargle thing. You can do the flutter of the tongue, but I do the, so you go. So that's how I do it. The dump truck air horn, yeah, Tater, that was awesome. I was absolutely cracking up laughing so hard at that thing. And I'll guarantee you it would have got a turkey to gobble too. That was awesome. Any other questions out there? Ricky Burks, what's your favorite locator call? My favorite one is the one that works. Usually if I'm going to use a locator call before daylight, it'll be an owl. During the hunt, normally it'll be a crow call during the day. I usually don't owl too much during the day. A lot of times with my locators, I'll listen to see what's making a turkey gobble. If crows are making a turkey gobble, then I'll use a crow call if I need to make the turkey to gobble to move or whatever. Or a pea-leaded woodpecker. If you hear a pea-leaded woodpecker and he's going crazy and the turkey gobbles to it, then I'll use my pea-leaded woodpecker call to get him to gobble. So whatever's working, that's what I'll use. I've heard people crow call, pitch black dark, 30 minutes before daylight. Although the turkeys gobbled to it, it was nowhere near realistic because turkeys aren't crowing at 30 minutes before daylight. So, what's your go-to call? Jeff Hope, what is your go-to call working a bird? Just depends on what's working. I mean, I've had times where I'm always got a mouth call in, always. Just because when I finish the turkey, I'm usually got a mouth call in so I can putt and get his head up, or if I need to call a little bit, cluck and a purr, to get him to come a little bit further, I can do that without movement. But I've had times where, you guys that hunted out there for years knows, sometimes a turkey will only gobble to a slate call, and sometimes a turkey will only gobble to a box call, and sometimes a turkey will only gobble to a trumpet. And I've had all three of those scenarios. Sometimes a turkey will only gobble to a tube call. So it just depends on, I carry a vest that's heavy enough to kill a small dog, but I have whatever I need in there. I have a box call and a trumpet and a tube call and all my locator stuff and two pot calls, a slate and a glass, and strikers, and so I carry enough stuff to where I'm gonna, if turkey's gonna gobble to something, I'm gonna find what it is. A few years ago, it's been several years ago, a buddy of mine, we pulled up, these turkeys crossed the road in front of us, and we pulled up and we were just gonna mess with him with his preseason kind of scouting, and so we pulled up there and he gets his slate out and he starts yelping on his slate, and the turkey never gobbled. So I pulled out a box call and I yelped on this box call, and the turkey gobbled to it. And he pulls his slate back out and he's yelping. The turkey never gobbled. I pulled the box call and I yelped on the box call. And the turkey gobbled like crazy. Every time I played the box call, the turkey gobbled. Before this, I heard him tell some guys that box calls were only for old men and kids that didn't know how to use mouth call or slate call. And that day I actually changed his mind because sometimes a turkey likes a box call. My box call sounds great in the woods. And then sometimes a turkey loves the glass call, crystal call, or aluminum call. So it just depends on what the turkey wants to hear and make him gobble. Had a friend of mine, Mr. Marvin Robbins, who passed away in 2009, big wingbone caller, and we hunted turkeys, couldn't hear a turkey one all day until about 11, 12 o'clock. He yelped on a wingbone. His turkey gobbled as far as you could hear, half a mile or more. And every time he yelped, that turkey gobbled. And so he said, I'll stay here and keep him gobbling, and you guys go get in on him, because there was a couple mountains before we could get to where the turkey was. And so sure enough, he kept him gobbling with the wingbone. And the turkey would only answer the wingbone, nothing else. And he kept him gobbling with the wingbone. We snuck in and got right on the turkey. So a tip for you new turkey hunters out there: once you learn how to turkey call, broaden your horizons and pull out a trumpet or a wingbone or a box call or a slate call or a mouth call or tube call, or try scratch boxes. Broaden your horizons when it comes to turkey calls, so you can have different tools in your box when you need it. How do you hunt an Alabama field turkey? I've actually hunted Alabama like 6 times, no, maybe 7 times. I've killed several turkeys in Alabama. Field turkeys are hard no matter where they live. A lot of times the turkey will get out in the middle of the field because he can see. He can see any predator coming near him, coyotes or birds of prey or whatever, or hunters. And a lot of times he'll just sit out there. A lot of times what I'll do is watch where the turkey goes once he leaves the field, and that's the area that I want to be hunting next time I see that turkey out in the field. I'm going to go over to where he exited the field and set up. So that'd be my best guess. So watch the field, watch the turkey, see where he goes, see what he does. Usually, if I'm hunting a turkey and I can see the turkey, I have a good chance to kill the turkey, because I'll watch his body posture. I'll watch how he reacts to different things. If I'm calling to him, I'll see how he reacts to each call that I'm making, and that'll help me end up killing the turkey. So, hope that answered your question. Kevin Curran, I'm fixing to sign off, but I'll holler at you in Nashville next week. If not, I'll see you on Old Gobbler under Tennessee Beard Buster. All right. Good to see you, Kevin. Brandon Tater Rich, favorite state to hunt? Oh my gosh, whatever state I'm in, Tater. But I tell you, I've had some phenomenal hunt. Missouri is absolutely awesome. My biggest turkeys I've ever killed came from Missouri, from the same area in Missouri. Heaviest turkey I ever killed was in Missouri, 28.2 pounds on a digital fish scale. And the last year I went to Missouri was 5 or 6 years ago. Longest spurred turkey I ever killed, 1 3/4 inches, was from that same area in Missouri. So I love Missouri. The Missouri Easterns gobble like crazy. I also love Alabama, Mississippi. I love the South. Hardwood bottoms in the South, you just can't beat. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Very first turkey hunt I went on out of state. Actually, it wasn't the first turkey hunt on, but the first time I hunted Alabama out of state. Met up with some people down there. A friend of mine knew Mr. Dave Ewing. I don't know if Dave's on here or not. But anyway, we showed up in the evening before the hunt. We didn't have a chance to roost, so we went out the next morning. He drove me pitch black dark and dropped me off on a road and said, walk down this road till the road turns to the right and then stay right there until daylight and see if you can hear any birds and then move from there if you need to. So I did, and I'm walking out, and it's the first time I'd ever been to the South. And, I mean, I'm hearing stuff I'd never heard before in California or anywhere else I'd hunted. I mean, just different sounds and stuff that's going on. And the barred owls started hooting in the mornings, and I was just focused in on them because it was so awesome to listen to the birds. Because one started and another one started, and they started going back at each other. And then all of a sudden, one of the owls flew into the same tree as the other one, and they started just laughing and doing all kinds of stuff, and a turkey gobbled. And I about died right there. It was Alabama Eastern turkeys gobble a little bit different than California Rios. I'll just say that. I thought he was going to eat me. It was bad. It was bad. So I was hooked. I ended up hunting that turkey 3 different times. I didn't hunt him 3 days in a row, but that stupid turkey stayed in the roost till after 9 o'clock. I got in close. The second time I hunted with him, I got in close. I thought for any minute he was going to show up because I could hear him spitting and drumming, and I just knew he was close. I knew he was there somewhere. Well, I didn't look up because he wasn't very far in a tree. It wasn't until the 3rd time that I hunted him when I actually saw him in the tree on the limb. And what really messed things up was the limbs were horizontal, and he could walk the limbs. And so it sounded like he was moving back and forth. And that's why I thought he was coming in the second time I hunted him. Anyway, he was I saw him with binoculars. I was about 150 yards away, and I spotted him on the limb, strutting back and forth, walking this stupid limb. And then about 9:15, 9:30, he jumped and flew about 500 yards across the road, across different continents, I think. A couple weeks later, the buddy that I was down there hunting with, he actually killed the turkey where the turkey ended up flying to, and had like 1.5 inch spurs. So, Frank Hanley, do you use red dot, and what is your favorite turkey gun? I don't use a red dot, Frank. I use a scope. A few years ago, my eyes, getting old, I couldn't focus on the closest dots. I use fiber optic sights, and so I couldn't focus on the closest sight, so I went to a scope. So I shoot a scope now. All right, Sean Hunkins, what's your favorite reed combo cut on a mouth call? That's reverse combo, 3-reed reverse combo. I also like a bat wing, but right now the reverse combo is my favorite cut. Ricky Burtz, how many years have you been turkey hunted? I started turkey hunting in 1983. Chased turkeys until 1985 when I actually started killing turkeys then, and I've been killing turkeys since 85. So this will be my, 34th year? 83? Yeah, 34th spring. So. Yes, Wayne Smith, this is live. Mickey Gray, do you ever use a coyote howler as a locator? Yes, I do, Mickey. Especially in the mountain states like Colorado, Wyoming, Arizona. Merriam turkeys gobble. crazy to an owl hooter. To a coyote caller. So yeah, I just use a mouth call, flip the mouth call upside down, and you can coyote howl with it. Let me see if I can do that. This is the normal way. That's how I coyote howl. Ben Forbes from Tennessee and primarily hunts southern states and Iowa, heading to central Kansas mid-April. Any tips for hunting Rios? Yeah, Ben, Rios like to gobble. I said earlier, just because he's gobbling at you don't mean that he's going to come. It's not until you can see him and see that he's coming at you when you know he's coming. So keep after him. A lot of times Rios like to walk and gobble. They do the walk and gobble. They know where they're going. They want to go a specific way or to a certain area, and they're going to gobble as they walk the whole way. And the only way you're going to get those turkeys is get around in front of them, call them to you. Scott Ellis, what's the best thing you've learned from your turkeys? Probably the different sounds. I'm watching my turkeys all the time. I've raised 3 little Osceola turkeys this last spring, and they've been out running around. I let them out. I raised them with some chickens, so they think they're chickens, and I don't know if they think they're chickens or the chickens think they're turkeys, one or the other, but they're out in the backyard when I let them out of the pen, and they'll walk around, and just watching their body postures and how they react to different things, different sounds, helps me a lot, I think, when I'm actually hunting out there. How long you wait for a gobbler that shuts up? Just depends, Wayne Smith. I'll try to figure out what's going on, put the pieces of the puzzle together as far as why the turkey shut up. If he's coming to me, a lot of times they'll shut up when they come in, and then they'll just sneak in, and then next thing you'll hear is a and he'll be standing behind you. So I'll give a turkey 15-20 minutes, and I'll call at him, and then try to get him to gobble or whatever. But that's usually how long I wait. I'm not a long sit for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, unless I know there's a turkey in a specific area in a specific time. You can watch turkeys. I've spotted a turkey in this one field, on this one corner of this field, at 2 o'clock every single day that I drove by at 2 o'clock during that time. So when I wanted to hunt that turkey, I actually got in there around noon because I didn't know what time he was getting there. I got in there around noon and set up, and sure enough, about 1:30, he gobbled behind me and was coming in. So pattern your turkeys. Scout. You want to kill turkeys? The more you scout, the more turkeys you're going to kill. Can we hear you, Jake Gobble, on time? Can we hear you, Jake Gobble, on time? Jake Gobble. I did a Jake. Oh wait, a Jake Gobble? A Jake Gobble. Okay, here we go. Usually Jake Gobble on a mouth call. On this call, this is my gobbling call, so I don't usually Jake Gobble on it, but that's how I would do it. Jason Dials, have you had much luck calling turkeys down big hills? Yes, turkeys will go up hills, turkeys will go down hills, turkeys will go around hills. A turkey lives out in the woods. He goes up and down hills all the time. The problem is, if you're down in the bottom and he is coming down to you, he can stand up there and look down into the bottom of the hollow to see you. And a lot of times he'll stand there and watch and look and see where the hen's supposed to be down there. Plus, it's harder if you're sitting and the land comes down to you to actually shoot. You have to lift your gun up to actually shoot the turkey if he's coming down. So it's harder that way to kill. But turkeys go up and down hills all the time. Usually want to be on top because it's easier to shoot downhill at a turkey coming up at you. So, Mark Jenkins, do you make your own mouth calls? If so, where do you find instruction to get started as intention on latex? Mark, I started just by one at a time. I'd stretch one, call on it. If it was too tight, then I wouldn't put as much. I had a Folgers, 1 pound Folgers coffee can full of mouth calls by the time I started getting calls that I liked sounding and all that kind of stuff. So it's just trial and error. Lucas Sims, fly down cackle. Fly down cackle friction or fly down cackle? I'll give you a friction fly down cackle with my striker. Fly down cackle on a friction call. There's a fly down cackle, Lucas Sims. Wayne Smith, if you had one call in the woods with you, what would it be? Wayne, I have never been into the woods with just one call. Even my mouth calls, I carry them in bunches in a little, used to be a green skull can. I boiled it and cleaned everything off of it, drilled some holes in the bottom of it, and I'll have 5, 6, 8 mouth calls in that. So it would probably be a mouth call. So that's usually what I would have. And that's mainly because I can and shoot. Brad Shreve, I really enjoy you hearing your gobbles, Joe. Thank you. Appreciate it. Richard Gunn, I think a Jake Gobble can intimidate a boss gobbler and make him come in when nothing else will. Your take on that? Jake's gobble, gobbler's gobble. I think a Jake gobble is a good bet. A lot of times we'll use a Jake decoy, so a Jake gobble is a good. A lot of times a big gobbler will come and investigate a Jake gobble. He don't want the Jakes around his hens, so it is a good tool to have. Harold Kinner, on Osceolas, are they as hard to hunt as they say? Harold, not too many easy turkeys anymore. If you get an easy one, you're lucky. Count your blessings. And turkey is a turkey no matter what, but the problem is being able to get to the Osceolas without having to cross waters or swamps. And second year I hunted in Florida, I was hunting with Roland Martin, who had met at the Grand Nationals one year, and we crossed this waterway, and I had hip boots on, and I was holding these hip boots up just so water wouldn't go down inside my hip boots. That's how deep it was. And we crossed this waterway and set up on the other side, called this turkey in, I killed the turkey, we went back. When we met up with Roland's buddy, Roland was telling him where we killed the turkey, and the guy looked at me and he said, "You crossed that area of water right there?" And I said, "Yeah, I was with Roland, that's where we were at." He said, "There's a 12-foot alligator that lives in that area right there." I said, "You didn't tell me that before I went walking across there." There were snakes crawling across the water when we were walking across. It was absolutely crazy, but we ended up killing a turkey. So, Sean Hunkins, when did you learn and how did you start gobbling? I was on a job site. I used to work in construction. I was a heating and air guy, so I was doing a lot of sheet metal on roofs, and I just started learning how to do it do it, ticka ticka ticka, or with my voice I would go to gobble, to gobble, to gobble, to gobble. Mouth calling, I saw Stephen Richardson gobbling on a mouth call, and I thought, man, I think I can do that, so I put a different mouth call in and split V and started calling on it. Very first time I actually gobbled with a mouth call on stage at Grand National was 2012, And it was going good. Everything was going good. And about 4 gobbles left in the routine, and my reed flipped, and it sounded like a predator call. Just it sounded like a dying rabbit. And it was funny because Saddler McGraw was actually one of the judges, and he wrote on my card, it was a 48 until your reed flipped 42. So I laughed at that. But yeah, I don't use a split V anymore to gobble on because there's a lot of force and a lot of air pressure across those reeds on your gobble call. So it has a tendency to flip over. When I set up on a bird on the roost, I try to set where he doesn't fly into the sun. Do you agree? Well, you don't want to be sitting in the sun. You want to be in the shade. Just depends on the lay of the land. If I've roosted the turkey and I know where the turkey's going to fly down, I'm going to be sitting where when he flies down, I can kill the turkey. So it just depends on the lay of the land. Josh Abernathy, what's the best way to store mouth calls? I didn't get to read the rest of that. Best way to do it is to wash them off and put them in the refrigerator after you get done using them. Do I do that? Not a lot, because I make my own. I can go out and just make a handful or whatever. But to store mouth calls and to keep them fresh, that's the best way to keep them from ruining. Always put them in your mouth before you start calling a lot on it. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll purr on it real loud and get those reeds to vibrate, and then you can kind of start to spread them apart, because as soon as you start pulling on latex reeds, especially ones that are cut, they're going to tear, and now you're in trouble. So Perry Skiffington, Joe, speaking of Jake's gobbling, what's a distinct way, or how can you tell the difference from a Jake than a longbeard? Jakes usually have more of a half gobble. Their gobbles usually aren't as long. And they're not complete. Usually a big gobbler will complete his gobble, where a Jake won't. And a lot of times Jakes will calc and gobble. The yow, 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 gobble, yow, yow, yow. But I've been fooled. And if you've hunted turkeys long enough, you'll be fooled. Because I've had gobblers just deep-throated gobbles and see the bird come up strutting over the hill, and here's his Jake tail fan, I'm like, aye. And then I've heard some weak gobbles come from a full fan, 10-inch beard gobbler. So you can't always go by the sound. They can fool you sometimes. Gerald Sawyers, what is the best way to get a turkey to cross a creek? Get him fired up. If a turkey wants to cross a creek, he'll cross a creek. In the last 2 or 3 years, I've actually called birds across creeks, across rivers. This last one was Shane Simpson. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I called one across the river hunting with my buddy up by Smithville area. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's going to kill me now. Anyway, we got the bird fired up. I mean, every time I called, he gobbled. I fired him. I went back at him and got him to gobble. He had to fly probably 150 yards to get across the river. And sure enough, we hear the wing beats, and bird flew over to our side, and I called him in. I killed him. So, Carlos, have you hunted Gules turkeys in Mexico? Yes, I have. I don't know what year it was. 2005? Might have been. No, it was earlier than that. 95? Between 95 and 2005, I killed a Gules turkey in Mexico. That was another story. If you want to hear it, I'll tell you. But Wayne Smith, good job. Thanks, Wayne. J.J. Payne, do you prefer ridgetop woods turkeys or field turkeys? I prefer ridgetop wood turkeys. I prefer hardwood ridgetops or even hardwood bottoms. If I'm on a turkey hunt, that would be my perfect scenario. One of the best turkey hunts I've ever been on was in Mississippi in a hardwood bottom. Just a couple little creeks running through it, but it was just a phenomenal. The scenery, the leaves, trees had leafed out, so there was good cover, and turkeys were gobbling like crazy, and just a phenomenal hunt. Jason Fisher, let's hear the Gould story. There was 5 of us that went Goulds hunting together, and it was one of the first years this outfitter started Gould's turkey hunting, And so their guys didn't know anything about turkey hunting. They had no clue. And but they knew the lay of the land, and so they were just taken with them. Most of them couldn't speak English either, and they would just take us with them. We'd just go with them. So we get up on this ridge early in the morning before daylight, and turkey was gobbling. So I started calling to this turkey. Turkey flies down. He's coming to me, and all of a sudden, boom, gun goes off. Between probably about 100 yards away, the turkey started off at about 200 yards, and at about 100 yards, the gun went off. Well, the other guy, taking one of the guys that was in our group, snuck in between the turkey that I was calling that was coming to me, and one of my guys that was in our group killed the turkey. The turkey had over an inch spur, by the way, on a Gules turkey, which was phenomenal. So the rest of that day, we didn't kill any other turkeys. The next afternoon, I was hunting in that same area, and this turkey started gobbling on this ridge across from where we were. Straight across it was only probably 400 or 500 yards, but to get to it, you'd have to go half a mile and a half a mile or more up to where it was. But the two ridges actually met, and so after the turkey gobbled like 10 or 15 times and there was no turkeys gobbling where I was at, I thought, I'm going after that turkey. So I got on this ridge, the same ridge I was on. I went up to the other ridge and then started down the other ridge. Well, what the turkey was doing is the turkey was gobbling on this ridge that he was on, and then he would walk about 200 yards and gobble again. And then he would walk back and he would gobble again. And he would walk back to the other side and gobble again. So when I started getting close, I was in some wide open country, and I would wait for the turkey to gobble close to me. I would hide behind a tree, wait for him to gobble. I would actually count to 10, which gave him time to actually start walking to the other end. And I would go as fast as I could to get up to where he was at. I would sit down, I'd hear him gobble, I would get as close as I can, I would stop, and then he would come back, and then he would gobble close to me again. And then I would count to 10 again, and waiting for him to go to the other end of the 200 yards where he was calling from. And I would take off. After I count to 10, I would take off. Finally, about the fourth or fifth time I did that, one more move, he gobbled close to me, and he started heading back the other way. Now, I didn't know if he was heading back the other way. I just hoped he would. And I just got up as close as I can. By the time I actually sat down, I heard him gobble at the other end. And I sat down, sat up, and I heard him coming. I heard him spitting and drumming. And I yelped one time, he gobbled at me, and I heard him spitting and drumming, and sure enough, he spit and drummed and come right up to me. So if you're ever in a situation where the turkey is gobbling on one end and going 200 or 300 yards and gobbling again and then coming back and gobbling back and forth, you can move on that turkey and get up. What you need to do, though, is be where he ends up. Every time he gobbles, when he turns around, he's looking for hens. He's gobbling over that end of the ridge, and then he's coming back to this end and gobbling for hens. And he's going back to the other side and gobbling for hens. And so just move your way until you can get up into his zone where he's going to gobble, and he'll eventually come back to that side, and that's when you can kill him. You're never going to call him away from that area. So. Jason Fisher, do they gobble a lot? Are they workable? Gules turkeys do gobble a lot. They have a similar Merriam type gobble to them. They don't gobble like an Eastern or an Osceola or anything like that, but they do like to gobble. And most of the Gules turkeys aren't hunted a lot, so they're usually callable. So that's usually going to be a fun hunt. And those people who think the Merriams have a white tail fan have never seen a Gules turkey, because Merriams have a white tail fan, and the Gules turkey's fan looks like it's bleached. There's no color in the white on the tail coverts or the actual band on the tips of the tail feathers. So they're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Wayne Smith, what's your favorite species to hunt? Wayne, whatever species I'm hunting at the time, that's my favorite species to hunt. I love hunting them all, the different types of terrain, from mountains turkeys to swamp turkeys to Texas turkeys out in the desert land. They're all just a little bit different, and that's the whole fun part for me, is to hunt turkeys in different parts of the country, different parts of the of land, different terrains, and all that kind of stuff. To be able to go into a place that I've never hunted before, figure the turkeys out, and kill a turkey is what I love to do. Do I have? Are you talking about a Gules, Jason Fisher? My Gules turkey I had mounted. I've got, I think, 7 full mounted turkeys. 4 of them I mounted myself. I had 3 other ones I mounted. Callie Morris mounted my Osceola. He mounted an Eastern for me, and he mounted a Merriam turkey for me. And then I mounted them myself, the other ones. But I had an Eastern, Alabama Eastern turkey, and a Gules turkey strutting side by side, facing each other. And we got a Labrador puppy, and it was about 3 months old, and got in there with him one day when we weren't around and chewed it to pieces. Both heads were gone. The breast feather out of the Eastern was chewed up. The Gules turkeys, all the back feathers were gone. Only thing I have left of my Gules turkey is the tail fan. That's it. The rest of it is history. So, Richard Gunn, biggest Eastern I've killed. Biggest spurred was 1 3/4 in Missouri. Heaviest was in Missouri, 28.2, and 11-inch beard, 11 1/4-inch beard, I think. Carlos, you know how to call an ocellated turkey? No, I don't. They don't gobble, but I know it's some weird sound like that. But I've seen some videos with them strutting around making that noise. One of these days, I'm going to kill me an ocellated turkey to finish off my World Slam. I have 3 Grand Slams and a Royal Slam, but I haven't killed the world. Josh Abernathy, what is the best way to hunt late season, high pressure public land birds? A lot of times, Josh, late season public land birds are turkeys you can kill. Not that they're pressured, but it's because it's late season and they're, a lot of times the hens are gone, and a lot of times they'll start acting like a real turkey and gobble and strut and come in. But usually those birds don't travel a long ways to get to you, so you need to get in tight. If they're going to come to you, they'll either come in silent or they won't travel a long distance to get to you, so you got to get in close. Kerry Lynch, have you ever hunted North Idaho? Not North Idaho. I've hunted Central Idaho, but my brother actually lives in St. Mary's, Idaho, up in north. It's about 30 to 45 minutes south of, the Panhandle. What's the main? Can't think of the main town up in North Idaho. But anyway, he lives up there around the Merriam's turkeys and the elk and the deer and the whitetail and mule deer and all that good stuff. So, but I am going to go to North Idaho because I haven't killed a turkey in Washington. I want to do Washington and North Idaho turkey hunt. Perry Skipton, how many double or multiple bearded turkeys have you killed? Have you ever killed a bearded hen? If they are legal out there, yes, they are legal. I have killed a bearded hen, and I don't know how many multiple bearded turkeys I've killed. I think the most multiple beard, I killed a bird that had 3 beards. I killed one in an area. A friend of mine had some land he was hunting, and the genetics in that area were from multiple bearded turkeys. He killed several multiple bearded turkeys and seen some big turkeys with having a lot of beards, thick beards, and you could tell there was multiple beards. And I killed a turkey with 3 beards, had a 9, a 6, and a 4. And then there were little nipple-like things. There was 5 other ones. And if it would have lived for probably another 2 or 3 years, he would have probably had 8 beards on it. It was crazy. So, but I don't know, Perry, how many I've killed. Maybe close to a dozen or more. Do gobblers stop gobbling at calls because of pressure, or is it that they have hens? Can be both. Turkey's a turkey. Sometimes they'll gobble, sometimes they won't. It just depends on what they want to do. I will tell you a little story. I had roosted a turkey. I was hunting up in California here, and I had roosted a turkey the night before, and he had 12 hens, and he was by only gobbler with 12 hens, and I went and set up on him, And the next morning, and this property bordered a lake, and so early in the morning before daylight, this boat started coming in on the lake. I could hear the engine. The turkey never gobbled, but I heard him spitting and drumming already in the morning, before daylight. Well, the boat come up, pulls up, gets on a box call, yop, 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 yop. And I'm close. I'm within probably 70 yards of the turkey in the tree, and I can hear him. He was answering the guy in the boat, but the guy in the boat was about 300 yards away, and there's no way the guy in the boat could hear him spitting and drumming. He never did gobble, but he answered that guy's box call every single time he called. But the guy in the boat didn't have any idea there was even a turkey there. He jumped back in the boat and then took off, which was good for me because I didn't want anybody to come in on me anyway. So, Mike Batty, do you learn anything from filming rather than a gun in your hand? Yes, Mike. Anytime you're out and you can spend time with turkeys in the field, either pre-season or during the season, I've filmed a lot of hunts where I don't carry a gun. A lot of times when my son and I hunt, he's usually got the gun in front of me and I've got the camera. And anytime you can spend time in the woods with turkeys, you're going to learn stuff. Nobody's a professional. Everybody's always learning with turkeys. So, Tom Portell, have you hunted Kansas, and does a higher pitch call work better than just a regular? No, I haven't. I've hunted Kansas for mule deer one year, and I had a turkey tag for the fall, but I've never killed a turkey in Kansas. I'm going this year. But Rios seem to work better with a higher pitch call, a glass call, if you're going to use a pot call, or a high-pitched box call, or high-pitched mouth calls. But, turkeys don't know really that much difference as far as rasp or high-pitch or whatever, as far as whether they'll gobble to it or not. I have a theory, and don't know if it's true or not, about why specific times that a certain call will actually work when other calls won't. And I think it's because there's a hen that the turkey is used to in the area, in his flock, that sounds like the box call, or that sounds like a glass call, or that sounds like a tube call. And he responds to that because he thinks that's the hen that he's used to, where you won't get a response from some of the other calls, but you'll get a response from a tube call or a trumpet or whatever. That's just my theory. Don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I believe. Carlos, in the month of May, we will hunt ocellated turkey here in Mexico. There will be hunters from the United States. Yeah, good luck, Carlos. Anytime you can spend time out in the turkey woods is good time as far as I'm concerned. Carrie Lynch, make sure you look me up when you want to hunt North Idaho and Washington. I will, Carrie, for sure. I don't know anything about the Washington turkeys up that way, but I got to come up and kill a Washington turkey. Any other questions? Anybody want to hear anything? Nobody asked me if I key during the spring. Tom Portal, thank you, Joe. I'm going to the first time in Kansas this year. Just wondering about the wind for higher pitch. I know they're here too good. Yeah, Tom, get a box call. They'll try to cut through that wind. A lot of times they'll hear you and you won't be able to hear them. So, good luck. Mike Batty, how often do you get a response from a trumpet on Rios? Mike, almost every single time I use a trumpet. Almost every single time I use a trumpet on a Rio, they'll gobble to it. I had one bird. I just knew there was turkeys in the area. I was hunting more on the coast in California, and man, I was calling on my mouth call, yelping at him, and I just knew there was a turkey there, but he did not gobble. He would not gobble. So I pulled my trumpet out, and my first yelp on the trumpet, the turkey gobbled to it. He only gobbled once, but he did gobble to it. I knew he was there then, so that I figured out some strategies after knowing where he was at. So yes, they will gobble to a trumpet. Carrie Lynch, I live in Post Falls, about an hour away from St. Mary's, Idaho. Good deal, Carrie. Do I ever use a long box? I have a couple long boxes. I usually don't use a long box when I'm hunting, only because they're big and it takes up a lot of room. I do have a box call that I carry with me. I usually carry a short box. It's not the same one every year, but and I have a leather holster that I slide my box calls into. One of the things that I do pre-season is I always put my vest on and I'll walk with my vest because from year to year, a lot of things get turned around and switched around or whatever in your vest, and you'll make noise. And so I figure out what's making noise and how to move things around, because when I'm walking through the woods, I want to be as quiet as I can. Even though Shane Simpson don't think I can walk through the woods and be quiet, because I don't like to fall, but I fall. And that was because I had the wrong boots on. But anyway, a good tip is to walk before the woods, before the season starts, with your vest on, so you can hear if anything's rattling around or moving around. Alan Rouse, what calls do you carry in your vest? Oh, I have a box call, I have a slate and a glass call with two different strikers. I have a trumpet, I have a tube call, I have an owl hooter, a plea-leaded woodpecker, and a crow call, a Mike Batty crow call. And then all my mouth calls I usually keep in the front pocket. That's what's in my vest. I also have a wing, and then all the rest of the stuff. Never go to the woods without a thermocell, and believe me, I learned that the first year that I went to Florida in like 94, I think it was, or 93, 94. I mean, the black cloud of mosquitoes in Florida was absolutely crazy, and the sound was deafening. It was just ridiculous. So I got a thermocell, and it works, and I won't take it. I won't leave it home. It goes with me everywhere I go. Matt Saffel, that's not enough calls to carry. You need more. I know I need more. I keep telling my wife that I need more. I keep buying now. I keep buying different calls too, plus the calls I make. I just bought an Irving Went box call. Matter of fact, if you could see the top of that gun case right there, it's sitting right up there on top of it, all walnut. All right. If not, then I'm going to sign off and go have some dinner. If you guys have any other questions you want me to try to ask or answer or whatever, just hit me up on Facebook, message me or whatever, and we'll go from there. Oh, Derek Stallman, you've been all over the country, Mr. Joe. Where's your favorite place to hunt? Favorite place? Everywhere I'm at in the spring is my favorite place when I'm there. There are a couple places I probably won't go back to, but there are some. I love the South. I'd go back to Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina. Funny, I get asked all the time about hardest places to kill turkeys, and the normal is Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi. First time I was in Alabama, I killed 2 turkeys first 2 days. First time in South Carolina, I killed 2 turkeys the first day. Mississippi, I've killed turkeys every single time, except for the last time I went. I think I've hunted Mississippi 7 times. But I called a turkey in for a wounded warrior hunt for a guy. So it just depends on where you are, where the turkeys are, how much pressure the turkeys have had, as far as, you know. And when a turkey wants to work, he'll work no matter what. Okay, what is it like being an NWTF calling champion? Oh, it was a dream come true, Kerry Lynch. When I won the 2015 Gobbling contest, it was something, you know, I wanted to be the best gobbler in the world, and to do that, you have to win the Grand Nationals in Nashville, and I did that, so it was awesome. Dream come true. Mike Batty, how has competition calling helped you as a hunter? It helps me practice. It helps me try to be as close to a real turkey as I can get, because in competition, you want to sound more like a turkey than the next guy, when you're guys you're competing against. So it's helped me practice, and that practice has helped me in the field, using different calls. But I think the pressure of being on stage in a competition, you get nervous, you get all that excited and everything, but still, when you're in the woods and the turkey gobbles at 75 yards and you can hear him spitting and drumming and it's vibrating your eyeballs, and I mean, there's nothing like that. I still get cotton mouth. I can barely purr on a mouth call when a gobbler's coming in close or whatever. So I think how competition calling has helped me, it's made me a better caller, and makes me practice. So, all right. So I'm going to sign off here. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everybody for all the questions asked. And like I said, if you want to hit me up with some questions, go ahead and hit me up. Thank you.